Hey, it's Rosh from SpyTomorrow.com. I want to share this unscripted video after an amazing week with SPY T trading. I doubled a small account. It was kind of a challenge of mine, and I was able to do so in that week's time. I used a good strategy, I had a plan, and a little bit of luck, which of course many people took advantage of on this last Thursday. So I kind of want to just go through SPY Tomorrow, SPY T trading, and how you can continuously and regularly grow your trading account. And there are a number of ways to go about this. Years ago, I was working on a different kind of a problem. I was trying to figure out ways I could understand the inflation and deflation a little bit better of the premiums that were attached to the different options that I was trading. And of course, volatility, as we know, plays a big part of that. Theta plays a part in the time decay of our options. But while I was going through that process, I discovered some patterns that I've spent a couple years developing to create some signals. And once I developed a signal that was about 75% correct, I then had to figure out what's the best way to trade it. And I've spent the last 6 months doing that. And so I've been working with the members at SpyTomorrow.com. The signal's free on the front page if you want more information and details. Of course, you can become a member, but that's not required with what I'm going to share with you today. Because you can double your account too, or maybe increase it by 25 or 50% each week. And that's kind of my goal. I like to maybe, not each week, maybe even each month. How about that? Let's make it even easier. Let's say we increase our account by 50% each month on average. That's not too bad, is it? And that's kind of my goal. In some months, it's 25%. Some months, it's 100%. And if I make a big error, well, then I lost all of my profit. It's happened too. Because look, just because you have a good system, you're still dependent on you. You're still dependent on your actions of buying and selling and making good decisions in the process. But the thing that I have learned is that, look, day trading has a great allure to it. Opportunities and the control and getting in the market and out of the market at the end of the day and be able to sleep well at night. Well, the thing is, the more I have control during the day, it seems like the more I lose, And maybe that's the same for you too. Maybe you don't have the temperament, maybe the emotion, or maybe you just come up with too many interesting ideas during the trade. And that's kind of what my problem is. I'm always coming up with new ways. Oh, let's try this. Let's try that. Rather than just sitting with a system that works overnight. And that's what we do. And that's what I did. I basically would buy options at the end of the close, at the end of the market, the trading day, and then sell them in the morning. And I would use a specific signal. Now, I use the SPY Tomorrow signal, but you can use any kind of a signal, quite honestly. You can use maybe price action. Maybe you can look at now we trade ETFs, SPY and QQQ and IWM. But you can look at some of the big players within SPY, QQQ, such as Apple and Amazon and Google. Maybe see how they're reacting and maybe decide, look, all of these are going up at the end of the day. Maybe that's a signal that it'll be up tomorrow. But you have to test these things. Maybe you're using the MACD or the RSI or money flow. Demand index, VWAP. I mean, there's a number of things you can do to, kind of figure out technically what might happen the next morning. And then you can profit from the big gap overnight. Quite often, not every day, but quite often the market closes at one point and the next morning it's either up or down with enough of a gap that options, short-term options, will play a big role in terms of increasing your account by, depending on the method you use, by a couple percentage points or maybe 10, 20%. It could be a lot more. You could double it if you go directional. Now, if you go directional, and I'll go through the different methods in a moment that we use. I used specifically, there are 3 parts to the trading method, and we've kind of covered 2 of them already. The overnight swing trade, buy at the close, sell in the morning, and a big part of your profit has to do with your selling in the morning, so there is some skill development involved. And then the signal we use, SPY tomorrow, or whatever signal you wish to use, or in combination. Some people use the SPY tomorrow signal as a confirmation, or maybe to compare, or in combination of. Maybe they use 3 signals, and if, say, SPY tomorrow is up and one of their other signals is up and the other one's down, 2 out of the 3, they'll go up. So there's a number of ways you can approach this. So we have the signal, and then we have the method in which we buy our options. And traditionally, with our SPY T trading, which is what we call it, we use a 2-to-1 option ratio for the most part. And that can come in many different forms. You can always go directional, but if you go directional, that means if your indicator says up, well, then you buy a call. If your indicator says down, then you buy a put. It's just that simple. But if you're wrong, you could lose 50% or 70%. And people yesterday, well, they lost 97%, 98% of their money if they had a put going thinking the market was going to go down because the market went way up. It was a CPI day. And we said it was going up, but we were using, with caution, because any kind of the wrong direction, if the pressure's high and it goes the other way, well, you can lose. So we use a 2-to-1 option ratio, which gives us a hedge, meaning if the market goes the other way enough, we can make money. Now, there are ways you can do this. You can use a straddle, and that just says, hey, I'm going to go either way. It's a neutral position. And that can work pretty well, especially during, say, news times or down times. That's what we've seen. Straddles can perform very well. Going up during the up times, it doesn't perform as well. And you really do need a lot of volatility for straddles to work really well. So we like to aim directionally, but with some hedges. So we're not totally leaving ourselves for total loss. When you are doing directional, you have to use smaller position sizes. It's just the fact. You have to, if you have an account that's 1,000, then maybe you're using 10, 20% of that. You have to decide what your risk tolerance is. And then you can decide what your position sizes is. And your best way to go about it is to paper trade and practice before you put real money in. Really understand, and I'll talk about this in a moment, understanding your ETF or stock, because that's really important. But let me continue on with the other part. So we have a few SPY T trades. One is the most aggressive. It's what we refer to as the SPY TA. And it kind of has a directional approach to it. So we're going to assume in all these examples that our signal said the market's going up tomorrow. So we would buy 2 calls at the same strike price as 1 put. And so it's a 2-to-1. And basically that call and that put is kind of a straddle, but then you have a call on its own. So that put will help minimize the downside if you are wrong, or your signal is wrong. If your signal's wrong and it goes down, your downside is protected. You won't lose all of your money, most likely, if it continues to just crash. So it's a nice protection if the whole market crashed. So if, for example, yesterday we said the market was going down, we're pointing down, and we had this huge up day, well, we would probably still made money. Not as much money if we were pointing in the right direction, but we would have made money. And I'll give you a really good example of the type of trade I did in a few moments that would have made 30% even if we were pointing in the wrong direction. So the next one is the SPY TB trade. And I have videos on all these, so I recommend if any of these sound of interest to you, because this is kind of just a running kind of commentary, one-to-one kind of a conversation that I wanted to just share with you as we go into this weekend and had a great week. But SPY TB, well, that one is where you buy a call. Remember, our signal says up all the time here in our examples. You buy a call just in the money, and let's say that call is $5. So then you would buy a put about half price. Look for one that's around $250, $260, $270, or $240 if you want to be a little more aggressive. And that one tends to do pretty well. And then there's SPY TC, where we go a little more into the money. And we would buy, let's say we would go 2, 3, 4 strikes into the money. And let's say we found a call at $5, and then right next to it was a put for $250. And so we look, so they're at the exact same strike price. And because of that, now it's easy to work with it too, and easier to find. So you find one, a put. If your indicator said down, then you'd find a put that's at say it's $4, $5, $6, and then right next to it at the same strike price is a call that's half the price. And so that's what we're doing here. So that's SPY TC. Honestly, that was one of my favorite ones. I've been working with it for a few months now. And we did within the membership, we did and I'm going to have a video on it coming soon. But right now we can see that what all these strategies were doing, say over a month's time, where about half the month was pretty down, very bearish, and the other half was very bullish. And so we could really see how each of these indicators is really just a kind of a perfect scenario where we could see how each of these systems worked and which ones work best, and the advantages of using one over another during certain time frames. So the SPY TC was a favorite. I'm thinking this is the best one, and honestly, it wasn't. And there is a video, I think it may even be the SPY TC video, where I said, stay away from the SPY TD. Maybe you saw that video. And I said, D for don't. and honestly, it ended up being the best one. Now, there's much bigger moves, and that is the downside, because if you have these big moves, then maybe if you don't have the temperament, then it may be tougher to deal with. So overall, it did better. However, it's a little more volatile, and I saw that, and that's why I thought don't mess with this one. It's so volatile. In the same way that maybe a strangle is a little more volatile than a straddle. So that's the kind of thing that we consider in this whole graph. And I'm going to do a video on this, and hopefully you will find it fascinating, at least as fascinating as I did, to see how they are using it. We're going to continue to keep adding. I'm taking the data and I'm adding to this because it is a small data set of about 21 trades, which is about a little over a month, or about a month. And we want to expand that, of course, because more data gives us better insight. So the next thing is the one that I'm really hot on right now, and that is the SPY TS. And the swings are not there. And you're not going to make as much, but it is directional. And what you do is you buy a call just in the money, and then a put 2 strikes out of the money for the put. So the call just in the money, then the put 2 strikes out. And then that will be your trade. So you're pointing in the direction of up, but there's that element that if it went totally the other direction, you could make money. And that's what happened in my situation, where I was up, maybe the whole account was up 65% Thursday. So that obviously is what put me over the edge for that 100% week. And I'm not always going for 100% week, but I certainly wanted to see what I could do last week, and it worked out pretty well. I was doing well, nothing to be ashamed of, but that that big day, the CPI day, for a lot of people really probably made their month and year. I saw an option that I was following that was very small, and it went up 1,600%. So, for example, if you had bought, say, $200 of those calls, of that call, it would have been worth $32,000 at the end of the day. That's the kind of day some people were having, as long as they were pointing in the right direction. So, I mean, it's fun. Again, there's a little luck involved, but you know what? You have these kinds of days, maybe a couple every month, but you got to be there and you have to be prepared. Now, what if we had said, what if my signal said down? What would have happened? Well, would have actually made 30% on the money. So that's why the SPY TC works so well. And now, most days it's up 1, 2, 3, 4%, maybe down, rarely more than 5%. But on big days, it's up 20%. You know, but it's rarely down more than that. I mean, the worst scenario we had was down 12%. And the reason it was down 12% is because the volatility came down so much. Sometimes when volatility is coming down with options, the premiums deflate. And that was actually what I was trying to figure out originally when I started developing my signal. And they deflate so much that even if you're right without a huge move, I mean, it could have gone up 0.5% and you would either have broken even or lost. So sometimes you have to be careful of what's happening and keep an eye on how fast the volatility is moving up or down, because it can work in the other direction too. Volatility is going up fast, you know, you can turn a little bit of a win into a big win. And that's of course that's the appeal of options, are those opportunities that they offer. And so I think it's kind of fun. The opportunity to continuously make money on a regular basis. And that's why I'm recommending the SPY TS, because especially if you're new, you can go after the more riskier, like the SPY TA, as you understand your trading style. You know, you still want to power up, you know, on the right days when your signal is hitting 75, 80, 85% correct, and you want to be more aggressive and take advantage of that. But in the beginning, the SPY TS is probably the better way to go about it, because, you know, you're not going to have the swings that you would normally have at such a level that's going to freak you out. And again, one thing I didn't mention is that, so out of those 21 days, we're saying we in this scenario, we said that every day we pointed up. Well, in this scenario, 11 of those 21 days was down. And all of these scenarios made money, except for directional. Directional didn't make money. It actually lost a lot. SPY TA about broke even. And then SPY TB, C, D, and S all made money. SPY TS was about 125-26%. SPY TD was close to 200%. And C wasn't as strong. As I mentioned before, it was up about 60%. Again, those are not horrible numbers. But remember, it was down. It was wrong. If we were using a signal, that means that signal would have been wrong more times than it's right. It was only right 47% of the time. Now, the SPY tomorrow signal, on average, is 75% correct. It was right every day this week. That doesn't always happen, of course. The reason why the SPY tomorrow signal, and quite honestly, any signal that you would use overnight, there's one thing, a couple things that will just counter the mood or change the direction of the market. Your signal, whatever it may be, whether it's a money flow signal, or it's maybe a pattern that you use, whatever it may be, the mood of the market can change with news. It can change economic news at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time in the morning. That can change the whole mood of the market. That's what happened with the CPI. It was actually, we were up a little bit, but it just shot up. because of the CPI report on Thursday. But we could have a bad report next week, and we may be all bullish, and then that will change the whole mood of the market. And that's the case of any of our tools. So there are some weeks where we're struggling because the news cycle, a new news event such as the war breaking out in Ukraine. I mean, the news changed by the hour, and that is not to our benefit when we're using such a signal. That's when we would get more conservative. If we were using SPY TA, we're on a roll, we would run down the SPY TS or even a straddle in those situations because we just want to make sure that we are not going to lose a lot of money and be able to take advantage no matter which direction the market's going. You need to understand, as I mentioned before, your risk tolerance. You need to understand, what it is you want to accomplish, your goals, and what it is you're willing to risk to get there. How much are you willing to risk? How much are you willing to lose? How much are you willing to lose first to learn the system before you move forward? I'll tell you right now, in this process of developing SPY Tomorrow, I lost thousands of dollars. I haven't broken even yet. I'm close. We're getting so close. Because, with the cost of developing it, SPY Tomorrow, the cost of even advertising. I didn't do a lot of advertising, but the whole process, the process of testing different styles of trading using my indicator, times where the indicator broke. During those 2 years, it broke a couple times, and I had to figure out why it was breaking. It would be right for, all month long, and then bam, it seemed like all the numbers just flipped. And they did. And I had to figure out what it was. And I had to mathematically figure out what I refer to as the switch, which literally flips the numbers around. And that switch was kind of the magic moment that basically made my indicator consistent and be able to work through all types of markets. And so that was it. But it took 2 years to find and test. I had to, again, test the styles. And much of the time when I was testing, I was going directional. And because I was going directional, well, when I wasn't doing well a few days, I would lose a lot of money. And then, again, after those 2 years, I stopped going directional and said, okay, there needs to be a better way to protect yourselves. And I continuously improved and created a number of different approaches. And, they're not necessarily made them up. I mean, the SPY TA is actually called a strip and a strap, technically. There are names for all sorts of patterns. But because the SPY T process is a process, specifically an overnight swing trade. It's a short-term swing trade. We use a signal. We use SPY Tomorrow, but you can use any signal you want. And then we use a 2-to-1 options ratio, or making sure we're hedging ourselves. So no matter what direction it would go, we're not going to lose all of our money. And that's the approach. And there are more conservative SPY T trades and there are more aggressive SPY T trades. And your trading style will decide how you would go about it. And so that's it. That's what we're trying to do here. And we're trying to grow and build our portfolios. I think everyone deserves that opportunity. And it does take practice, especially the selling side. But, that's why we're a community and we support each other in this process. Trying to find more opportunities. I'm building right now, I have an hourly system within there for members. So members can see an hourly pressure reading. It's in beta. It's not perfect at this point. But the members can see, and they know it's all in beta. They know that, use with caution. But the ultimate goal is for it to run in real time. And that's going to cost a lot of money. And so, no, I'm not asking you for money. I'm just saying it's going to cost a lot of money, which means it's going to take some time for me to build that out and put it into play. And so that's coming. But we'll see how long that takes. Just depends on, again, I am now trading regularly again. The SPY Tomorrow isn't taking so much of my time that I've decided that I'm trading regularly. Like I said, 100% the first week I really started trading regularly. I took 2 months off to really focus in on developing SPY, which has been proven to be a good thing. And I'm so excited with what we have, and we're going to get better. It's going to get better. The website's getting better. The information I'm giving is getting better. Everything's getting better, and that's the ultimate goal, is to have a real-time running for the members. So I'm pretty excited about that prospect down the road. If you have questions about the indicator or your own indicator, the process, what we're doing in our overnight swing trade, taking advantage of the gap, of that overnight gap that you very well may have noticed happening, and wondering if you could take advantage of it, and the different styles of SPY trading, put them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer your questions. And hey, I look forward to talking to you in the SPY chat room, or on YouTube, or in social media, on Twitter. You can ask questions there. And hey, I'll see you in the next video.